bombs might be Russian. Would you pay more so that it isn't? A Ukrainian MP in Kyiv sends a message to people in Northern Ireland.
It is a bloody coal. I want you to know that it is mixed with the blood, with not just some imaginary blood, but particular blood of Ukrainian people, of Ukrainian children.
The Environment Minister, Edwin Poots, has within the last few minutes told Nolan Live he wants to stop Russian coal fueling Kilroot Power Station within days. In fact, he doesn't want Russian coal in Northern Ireland at all.
I don't want Russian coal, oil or gas in Northern Ireland.
Also tonight, we visit orphan children who had to flee for their lives. And we ask you this question. Are you offering a place in your home to a Ukrainian refugee? Or for those lucky enough to have a second home, are you offering a place in your holiday home to someone fleeing Putin's bombs and bullets? For example, 50% of the houses in Port Ballantrae are holiday homes. How many of them will help refugees? Good evening. We put our telephone number on the screen at the very top of the show. There it is, 030 30 80 55 55. We have breaking news this evening from the Minister, Edwin Poots. You'll hear about that in a second. While Russia burns Ukraine, Northern Ireland burns Russian coal. Theoretically, the more coal we and other countries buy from Russia, the more they have to buy their bombs and launch them at civilians. This is what brings into focus Sam McBride's journalism in the Belfast Telegraph today. Sam McBride has created the big talking point of the day with his journalism, and there it is, Northern Ireland power plant forced to burn Russian coal. So, what do? Let's talk our way through all of this tonight. Kilroot Power Station supplies around 11% of our electricity here. They say they want to stop using Russian coal. They say they can't stop until Stormont changes the rules. Now, we've got Minister Poots on the programme in a few minutes' time. The bottom line is Stormont have not changed the rules. And this afternoon, the Economy Committee demanded answers. And Kilroot's owners have said if they are not allowed by Stormont to get rid of using Russian coal, that could cost every one of you around about £400 extra per year for your electric. 400 quid, look, it's a lot of money, but it's nothing compared to a maternity hospital getting bombed. There's a bigger picture story here, isn't there? So that's story one. Then there's a second story. Nothing to do with Kilroot. A new shipment of Russian coal arrived in Belfast at the weekend. Look, there it was, coming from Russia. Belfast Harbour say it's for the domestic market. So this coal is going to be sold in shops. You're going to see it in petrol stations. Should you refuse to buy that Russian coal? Maybe some of these companies ordered the coal before the war started, so it might not be fair to blame them or to put their livelihoods at risk. But there is a choice of supplier. There is coal in Northern Ireland, which is not Russian coal. And there are supplies that allow you to make a decision as to what you buy. If you do buy it, are you symbolically helping to fund the bombing of Ukraine? Well, for anyone who is not clear of the consequences of buying Russian coal, a Ukrainian MP has a very stark message for us tonight. She says she believes it has the blood of Ukrainian children on it. I spoke to Ciara Ruddick in Kyiv just a few minutes ago and asked her what's happening there tonight.
So today, Kyiv experienced most extensive shelling for the last 21 days. So for today and yesterday, we had at least 4 residential buildings destroyed and the subway station partially destroyed. Kyiv is on a curfew right now, which is supposed to end tomorrow morning. The curfew was implemented so we can all prepare for potential Russian attack. There were 3 ways of how the attack was supposed to go, and we are still preparing for the night. For the upcoming night, because we don't know what to expect. The 3 variants were, the first one is the direct ground attack, and we are ready to that because we are armed and all their resistance teams are ready to fight.
And Kira, you are sitting there tonight, and it is deceptive because you are so glamorous and beautiful there tonight speaking to us. Just show us what you have in front of you on the desk.
I have my rifle. So if
Just hold it up for me, Kira. My goodness. Have you ever used that before?
No, but I have been training for 21 days now, since the beginning of the war. And now I'm much better with it than on the day one.
It's just bizarre and horrible that civilians like you are having to fight. Anybody's having to fight.
Well, this is what the war is. And this is what it means to protect your motherland. We didn't want this war. And what is happening right now is just devastating. So you are trying to regain control where you can. So either preparing for the land attack or preparing for a siege. And we have like lots of food in the storage and water and phone batteries, or prepare to the Air Force attack, which is actually something you cannot be prepared to, because there is nothing you can do when there is a missile going onto your house, right? And this is the most painful. This is why we have been asking for the no-fly zone, because there is no control. There is nothing that you can do, like absolutely nothing that you can do to protect yourself from the bombs and from the missiles. And since the beginning of the war, Russians shot at least 1,000 missiles onto our land. Could you imagine this? Like, could you just imagine the destruction? Could you imagine the death and the pain?
Well, you tell me. You tell me about the pain and the death.
I want to tell you about the city of Mariupol. This is a city in the east of Ukraine that has been sieged for 2 weeks. And people there, they 400,000 people. So, and they are without food supplies, without water supplies, without medical aid, and they have been constantly bombarded by Russian Air Force, the civilian places. Today, the camp where the refugees were getting ready to get out was directly attacked by the Russian missile. There were 1,000 people there. Could you believe 1,000 men, women, and children who were hit by one missile? And the whole building is destroyed right now. And we don't know how many of them survived, because there is connection there. There's absolutely nothing. And we only know that there are many, many, many deaths. You know, they were not letting the refugees out from the city for 2 weeks. And 5 times Putin promised that he will let the convoys out, and he didn't. But I want you to picture this in your head. It's not just like the words, the humanitarian convoy. It's mothers who were melting snow to give the water to their children, and then they are told that there is a chance. There's a chance to get out. So very early in the morning, 6 a.m., when there is like, you know, everything is so gray, they are getting to these buses and everybody's being very quiet, and the children are hiding behind their mommies, and they are holding up to their small backpacks with all their paperwork and documents in case if they will have to go alone, because mommies don't know if they will be able to get out all together. And so they're getting into the buses, and the buses start driving, and everybody's very, very quiet. And then when they are getting out, the Russians start shooting, and the buses get back. And the next morning it is repeated, because they hope that the day will be the day, but it is not. And you know that yesterday we were able to take about 200 cars out with the people in them. And it happened not because Putin said yes, but because Ukrainian army was able to take this part of the road and to give like this lifeline to the people, to take them out. And this is how we learned about all the crazy thing that's happening there. That's how we learned about the destruction, the pain, and the death, the children's deaths there. Can you believe that in 21st century, in the middle of Europe, children are dying of dehydration? How is it even possible? If that doesn't make you bring up the gun and stand up and fight for your country, then one does.
I want to tell you, Ciara, about a story I have covered on my radio show in Northern Ireland this morning. And it is that we in Northern Ireland are buying Russian coal to fuel our power station. And not only that, the power station is calling for changes for the government to make so that it doesn't have to buy Russian coal, but the government haven't made those changes. That's what they claim. And then there is another story, Ciara, where the UK government has banned coal coming in on Russian ships, but the Russian coal came in on a different ship, and so it is in Northern Ireland, and Northern Irish people will have to decide whether to buy that coal or not. For anybody that buys that Russian coal, ultimately they're funding the Russian economy. They're buying Russian coal. What do you say to them tonight?
It's always hard to put a price on somebody's life. And while buying anything that is Russian, you're putting a price on our life, on life of so many innocent people who live their peaceful life. They didn't want to hurt anybody. And right now we are dying. Every single moment in Ukraine, somebody is dying. And we are dying because Russia had enough money to start this war. And the whole world right now is trying to cut all the support, all the finances to Russia, so they will stop. Because it's very hard to find a way to stop the third largest army in the world. And united, we all believe that we will be successful. Ukrainians fighting on our land, spilling our blood and giving our lives for our land, and the world doing possible and impossible things to stop the dictator by other means.
So if we here in Northern Ireland, a relatively small part of the world, if we see this Russian coal in shops and it's cheaper, and therefore we are tempted to buy it because it is cheaper, or we're tempted to buy it because it's only coal, what do you say to people?
It is a bloody coal. I want you to know that it is mixed with the blood, with not just some imaginary blood, but particular blood of Ukrainian people, of Ukrainian children. Because it seems that it is very far away and it's just a coal, but it is not, because Putin intends is to get the whole Europe. He's just the new Hitler, and we all remember what happened with Hitler. So right now, there is another tyrant that is raising, and you are funding the raising tyrant who is to destroy the whole Europe, to destroy everything that we love and everything that we stand for. I do not believe that for people in Northern Ireland, there are things that matter more than values, matter more than pride and freedom. And this is what we Ukrainians are fighting for. And this is where we are asking for support, for a hand and a shoulder. Because we know that we don't want to have the world where one country can conquer another country just because it can, because it's not right, because it's simply not right. And we are fighting for our values. We are standing up and we are fighting back. And what we are asking for is to stop funding Russia and give us some time so we can kick them back to where they come from, to create Russia as a new North Korea, so they wouldn't have any possibility to raise up again. And then at that point, it will be okay to buy Russian coal.
Ciara, you've been incredibly powerful tonight. I hope you have a safe night. And thank you for speaking to us. Thank you.
Thank you. And glory to Ukraine.
The reason we're talking about this story today, it's the biggest story in Northern Ireland today. It's because of the journalist sitting in front of me. This is Sam McBride's journalism from the Belfast Telegraph. Maybe you can set out for us, Sam, the two fuel stories, Kilroot and then coal being sold around petrol stations, for example, in Northern Ireland. It's Russian coal, some of it.
So Kilroot is one of the main power stations in Northern Ireland. It's just outside Carrickfergus. It's very distinctive on Belfast Lough. Most people in Northern Ireland will recognise it if they see a picture of it. Right now, about 23% of the electricity which is powering this studio, which is powering the TV sets, which people are watching us on, is coming from Kilroot. It's coming from Russian coal. That has been the case for a very long time. But what is obviously very significantly different is the war in Ukraine. Nobody in Stormont came out transparently and said this was happening. Nobody got in touch with me and said this was happening. Two people spoke to me about this over recent days, raised concerns about it. I asked questions of Stormont. Their answers were curt. They were pretty dismissive. They passed the baton between different departments. And to be fair to the company, they actually gave me more information than I got from Stormont. But this second story then is about a very large shipment, more than 20,000 tonnes of Russian coal.
And we shouldn't get these confused, should we?
No.
So there's one story, and it is Russian coal fueling Kilroot Power Station. Bottom line. And the government, in other words, Poots, right? Minister Poots, he could change some of the licensing of that power station so they didn't have to buy Russian coal. Is that it?
So what Kilroot say is that they have to burn Russian coal. They say that Stormont is essentially making them burn Russian coal. They say that their licence says that they have to burn this. I haven't seen the licence. I've asked them to see it. I don't know exactly what it says. Stormont won't show us the licence. So there's a lack of transparency around exactly what is happening here. But they say that that is lower in sulphur. Therefore, that is less damaging to the environment. So it's really an environmental quandary here for Stormont. Is the environment more important than the situation in Russia and in Ukraine? That is fundamentally the question here. But Stormont has not been confronting this. Privately, they've had discussions for days about this. Nothing has been said publicly.
Well, there's nothing private about it anymore. It's front page of your paper today. We led with 90 minutes, I think it was, on the Nolan show tonight. It's the whole show on this TV show. That's our biggest story. I think it is. And then we have this separate shipment, and we'll just show you the graphic again to show you that at the weekend, Sam, a different consignment of coal. This has nothing to do with Kilroot. It came from Russia, and it's now in Belfast Harbour.
That's right. This is a massive shipment. Kilroot say it definitely isn't for them. I understand that it's for a private distributor, which is sending it out to people who will burn it in their fires. So it is the sort of thing that you're likely to be able to buy. Individuals will make these decisions. But
where do you buy from, likely?
Well, there's no exact clarity about this. I haven't managed to get a company that will put their hand up and say that it's theirs, but there are several companies which distribute this in Northern Ireland. It was over 20,000 tonnes. This came in at the end of last week. You can see it visibly at the quayside in Belfast Harbour, and this is something which is a second element of this. So there's Kilroot, which Stormont can deal with quite straightforwardly if they alter the licence, and there's a second question there as to whether that's the right thing to do. Is there any commercial advantage for Kilroot? Are they in some ways making a financial benefit out of this as well as thinking about this morally? If that is the case, I think Stormont need to be very clever here, and they need to look at the licence. They need to maybe say to Kilroot, if you're going to benefit from this financially, we're going to claw back some of that money. We're going to put it into environmental projects. We send it to Ukraine, whatever they want to do with it. But I think that needs to be examined rigorously by people in Stormont.
And then with the coal that you might see in some shops, the coal, in other words, that's that consignment that's sitting at Belfast Harbour. Look, our job is to get you information so that you can decide what to do. We don't know at the moment, and by the way, it's only a matter of time until we find out. We don't know when the order for that coal was put in, and that's pretty important because there's a huge difference between a company that orders Russian coal before the war started, and maybe that's what that consignment's about, and maybe they'd already paid for it and all of that. There's a difference in that, isn't there? And a company that decided to buy Russian coal after the war had started. And in the future, that's a massive part of this. Are you going to buy Russian coal that's ordered from today? Or are you going to send a message to these companies? No, you're not. And that's up to you, because this is such a complex story. What if that coal is cheaper and you can't afford to buy any other type of coal? We've been speaking to the Environment Minister, Edmund Poots. I'll speak to him in just a second. Mark and Lisburn, let's get a call on air straight away. You're live on BBC One. Mark, what do you think?
Hi, Stephen. To be perfectly honest, my household work to give ourselves the best living possible, to give ourselves the best way to make a living possible, and if that means I buy Russian coal, I buy Russian fuel, whatever, to save me money that I can feed the people in my house, that I can drive to my work, so that I can earn money to feed the people in my house, so that I can heat my house, that's what I'll do.
So when you heard that Ukrainian MP tonight saying that in her view, Russian coal in Northern Ireland's coal, if it's Russian, has blood on it, the blood of Ukrainian children.
Yeah,
That didn't move you?
No harm to you, Stephen. It's really sad, but you know what? See if my kid starves, would that move me? Who have I to think about? People, no disrespect, people in Ukraine or people in my house?
Wow.
See, it's okay for Stephen, no disrespect, it's okay for likes of you on maybe £200,000 or £300,000 a year, but not for likes of me on minimum wage.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I can't afford to make them choices. I have to make hard choices, and the hard choices is to look after the people in my home.
I think it's fair comment to say that this doesn't affect me. I think that's fair comment. But I think I need to bring you all this story so that you can all make decisions yourselves. Minister Edwin Poots has made a dramatic intervention just before we came on air tonight. This is breaking news. He says he is going to try to stop Russian coal from being used in Kilroot Power Station within days, he says. He sat down with me just before we came on air.
Yeah, obviously, the situation in Ukraine is an appalling situation. Russia has no business being in Ukraine. I, for one, don't think the West have done enough thus far. And not only are we continuing to import coal from Russia, but oil and gas is being imported into both the European Union and beyond. And ultimately, if sanctions are to be effective, sanctions are going to have to hit Vladimir Putin. And I don't believe that actually sanctioning oligarchs and those pieces that are happening are enough to impose that pain upon Putin. There needs to be actual financial pain that is imposed upon him that really is effective.
Well, Kilroot is saying, as a power station, they don't want to buy that Russian coal. Now, I don't know if that's for commercial reasons or that's for ethical reasons, but they're saying they don't want to buy it. And they're saying they need the government to change the rules. And your department can play a role in this. Your party can play a role in this, in that the Minister, Gordon Lyons, is in charge of the Department for Economy, for goodness sake. So are you going to change the rules?
Well, the issue is around a derogation that is required by Kilroot to emit more sulphur than would be under the normal rules.
And who gives that derogation? It's you, is it not?
It is our department, yes. The NIEA will ultimately make that decision.
So you're going to give them it?
Well, I have to wait for a paper to come from the NIEA, but my view is that I don't want to be importing coal from Russia. So that's something that they'll have to make a recommendation on. There's a course of work to be done by the Department for Economy, and we will take some legal advice on the matter as well.
But
so
Edwin, I'm not trying to be unfair on you, and I'm not trying to be facetious, because you're choosing to come on this programme tonight, and thank you for doing so. But the people of Ukraine, they don't have days and weeks to get legal advice when they're fleeing their homes. And surely now's the time, if there is ever a time, for people in leadership to make decisions quickly. So are you going to be able to give that derogation within days so that we stop sending money to the Russian regime?
I would hope that we will bring this matter to a conclusion within days. While the issue is not clear-cut, I'm very clear on where I stand on it. And I stated a number of weeks ago that we shouldn't be importing either coal, oil or gas. And I don't believe anybody in the European Union should. Now, that has a consequence, because Germany, I believe, is importing somewhere around 40% of their gas from Russia. But the day that Putin's tanks rolled into Ukraine, he got more money for his oil and gas that day and since, because the oil and gas price went up. Well, so he has actually benefited.
But why do you
by
need
the fact that he is invaded, because oil and gas is now a higher price.
Why do you need papers? It sounds like you've made your mind up, and it sounds like if you have an opportunity now as the minister. The buck stops with you. So why don't you call this tonight and instruct your department tonight to stop, to give that derogation so that Kilroot can announce in the morning they will not put any further orders in for Russian coal?
Stephen, I can come onto this programme and be opportunistic, and that's not something I intend to do. We'll go through the proper process. It won't take weeks, it will take days, and we will engage with Kilroot, we'll engage with the Department for Economy, and we'll follow due process. But what I want to say very clearly to your listeners that as far as I'm concerned, I don't want to be putting money into Putin's pocket so that they can carry out further attacks in Ukraine. It's not that it's going to make a real tangible difference to Putin, whatever amount of coal Northern Ireland imports, because Russia has the ability to carry this war on either way. But the principle of it is something that I don't want Northern Ireland to be associated with. So we have a course of work to do. We will do that course of work. I want to make my position clear. I don't want Russian coal, oil or gas in Northern Ireland.
Minister, let me put to you what a Ukrainian MP has said today. He has said every bullet that finds its way into the Russian economy comes back as a bullet aimed at Ukrainian women and children. And Sammy Wilson, your colleague, has replied to that, has responded to that by saying the following. It was inspiring to hear from a group of Ukrainian MPs today. As one put it, and Sammy then repeats that, Sammy Wilson says, I hope this stark message will spur officials in the NIEA to take the action necessary to stop millions of pounds of coal being purchased from Russia by Kilroot Power Station. So Sammy's urging the NIEA on. Who are the NIEA?
The NIEA are officials who look after our environment. And it is their role to ensure that in as far as possible, we do not do harm to our environment.
So now, you can have influence there.
Yes, absolutely. Mind you, a lot of parties want it to be entirely independent and no political influence. I will give the officials time to go through due process. That's not going to be a long process. It's going to be a short process. I don't expect any orders to be placed for Russian coal in the meantime. But ultimately, my position is clear on whether we should be importing Russian coal or anything else from Russia for that matter, while they are invading Ukraine, murdering men, women and children in the way that they are. Their behaviour is disgraceful. They are a pariah state at this point.
So would you encourage people to not buy Russian coal if they can?
Yes.
And final question around this, of course, Russian coal is, compared to other sources of coal, low sulfur. So therefore, it has an environmental benefit compared to other types of coal. Does solidarity with Ukraine for the time that the war continues, does that trump the environment?
Well, ultimately, we're pressing and pressing and pressing to move away from using fossil fuels. So Northern Ireland's electricity is 50% renewable now. We are doing considerable work in terms of anaerobic digestion and pressing ahead with hydrogen development. We're producing hydrogen buses in Ballymena, and we're pressing ahead with all of those things.
But at the moment, this week, tomorrow, this week, next week, because those are long-term goals that you've got, does solidarity with Ukraine for as long as the war lasts trump our care for the environment?
Well, our solidarity with Ukraine has to come first at this point, and we cannot associate ourselves with Russia while it is carrying out the punitive attacks on the people of Ukraine, the murderous attacks, and I don't want any association from Northern Ireland with Russia at this point.
Minister, thank you so much indeed. Thank you, sir. So I dare say the officials in his department are maybe learning for the first time tonight that Poots wants to change how Kilroot fuels its power station within days, or if they've known up to now, they certainly haven't told Sam or anybody else about that. Susan's in Lisburn. Hello, Susan.
Hi.
You're live on BBC One, Susan. What do you make of all of this?
Well, I just want to know how Edwin Poots is heating and his house.
Well, tell me how you're heating your house and how you feel about Russian coal.
I am heating my house from local coal. Well, from what I know, I get it from a very local supplier.
And do you now want to know if it's Russian coal or not? And would you still buy it if it was?
No, I wouldn't buy it if it was Russian coal. No, I wouldn't.
And tell me why?
Because I don't want them. The Ukrainian people haven't asked for this, okay? And the way I look at it is, Edwin Poots needs to get his facts right before he comes on here. I want to know where he gets his gas from, where he gets his oil from, and where he gets his coal from. If he can come on here and say he gets it from local suppliers, and I get mine from an absolutely local supplier.
Well, I don't know how a supplier is more local from a local supplier, but Susan, I take your point.
It's in Lisburn, and it's within the County Down area.
Okay. Listen, thank you very much indeed. Stuart Dixon, where are we at? Should we all as consumers, in your view, now be asking, is that Russian coal? And if the answer is yes, what should we be doing?
Well, Stephen, I think before I answer that question, I want to say one thing to your viewers tonight, and it's this. It's overwhelming thanks to all the people in Northern Ireland who have stepped up, who have made financial contributions through DEX, who have loaded lorries and vans and trucks of gifts from Northern Ireland to people in Ukraine. That's the Northern Ireland that I'm proud of here tonight. But yes, of course, you've raised a very important moral dilemma for us. Should we be going, as you say, to petrol station forecourts and buying coal that comes initially from Russia?
It's not all from Russia.
No, it's not. And just to go back to the point about Kilroot Power Station, which is in my constituency in East Antrim, while I hear what Edwin Poots is saying tonight, this isn't actually about him saying where you buy your coal from, Kilroot Power Station. It's about the emissions from coal. And the reality is Russian coal is used because it's low sulphur. But Indonesian coal is also low sulphur. I don't know what the world price for Indonesian coal is, but they actually supply a lot more around the world to power stations than Russia does.
John, call this, though, whether this is through consumer power, refusing to buy Russian coal, or Edwin Poots putting in that derogation, and we know if he does, Kilroot will not buy it, should Russian coal stop in Northern Ireland?
Yes, of course it should. But there are commercial considerations in respect of that. What's going to happen to that mound of coal that's sitting in Belfast Harbour? Because there's a commercial decision being made to do that. And you've asked very important questions about it. Because if it was bought pre-war, well then I guess it's bona fide. If it was bought post-war, as the MP said tonight, it's got Ukrainian blood on every single lump of coal sitting in those docks.
Sam, Kilroot actually sent us a statement tonight, and they said our environmental permit, that's set by Poots' department, sets emissions limits, and we can only meet them through using Russian coal. This is why we're seeking a derogation.
Well, I think that we really need to see more clarity about this. Stormont is the policeman here, if you like. They are there to hold a commercial entity which exists to make money. That's perfectly lawful. That's their intent. They have a responsibility to their shareholders. Stormont's meant to be marking their homework. The unfortunate thing here, Stephen, is that the Stormont department responsible for this is the Department for the Economy, the department that brought us RHI, the department that doesn't fill me with any confidence that they have a clue what's going on in some of these circumstances.
Right, John Cameron owns McGrath Fuels in Bangor. Give us a sense of the market then for us as consumers, John. This is not Kilroot. This is us getting into shops, buying our coal for our fires. How do we know if it's Russian coal or not?
Good evening, Stephen. I think today has been the first time I've ever had people ring and ask, is it Russian coal? After this morning's radio show, we have been inundated with phone calls by people now wanting to know if it's Russian coal, which is great for those luxury burners and people who have the nice stoves in their house and just have it as an extra heat or an add-on or just there to have a nice feeling in their room. But as your first caller there this evening said, a lot of it comes down to price, and he's more worried about making sure his home is heated, and he doesn't mind burning the Russian coal.
Is Russian coal cheaper?
It isn't. There's cheaper coal out there. You know, a lot of the stuff you see in the forecourts in the petrol stations will be Polish coal or Russian coal.
So why would anybody be bringing in Russian coal in future orders then?
I don't know. But these deals have been done months and months in advance. A lot of coal distributors in Northern Ireland will be bringing these in nearly a year in advance. Like what's sitting in Belfast Harbour at the minute is upwards of £2 million sitting there, well over, probably closer to 4. So if a business has decided to bring that in pre-war, then I think for people to just boycott it and say we're not buying it isn't fair on that business.
But look, and you're making a really interesting point, right? So what these businesses, whoever they are, have an option of doing is to front up to the likes of Sam, myself, whoever, and get the message out to the public. Look, here's when we bought that shipment of coal. It was before the war. I think most people would have a reasonable approach to that. The key questions going forward, the key question is fuel that is bought from the point that war happened or from now. Now, are you telling me that businesses, there's enough supply of coal from around the world, that businesses could supply coal from elsewhere?
Certainly, there's, our business, we don't use any Russian coal. We haven't done. We choose to use Colombian coal. And as a result of what's going on throughout the world at the minute, yesterday, Colombian coal went up by £70 per tonne, which I said this morning on the radio station is passing on to the Joe blogs on the street at basically £3 to £4 per bag of an increase on a 40 to 50 kilogram bag. And that's the real part of it. People are going to have that increased cost by going for the Colombian coal. You can go for the cheaper Russian stuff or the Polish, but there's just going to be a cost inflation. And that's before we take into consideration the price of oil going up and the transportation fees.
Let me talk to Caroline, calling us from Enniskillen tonight. You're live on BBC One, Caroline.
Hi, Stephen. I was just listening to Edwin coming on there, and it's the same rhetoric, really, isn't it, that we expect from our MLAs all the time.
Well, to be fair, he says he's going to change their policy within days.
These things should have been dealt with a long time ago. Why are we always waiting to react? We always see our government as reactive.
Well, the war, of course, has only started a few weeks ago. What are you going to do with your fuel buying decision?
Well, at the minute, Stephen, I'm basically on 90% coal because I can't afford to put oil in my tank, and it's sitting at maybe 150 litres. So my oil's on a ration at the minute, and I'm buying coal. And would
you try not to buy Russian coal, or is that too tight?
I've never asked because at the minute I want to heat my house. I have a young child.
I get it.
I get Ukraine. It's horrific. It really is horrific, and I really feel for them. But I need to heat my home too.
I totally get it.
And I'm struggling, and there's so many people struggling, and I just feel like
I totally get it, Caroline.
The people with the lowest pockets are the people that are being asked to take the moral high ground here.
You're such an important caller tonight. Thank you. From Enniskillen to Belfast, and Ian. Hello, Ian.
Oh, good evening, Stephen. How are you?
What do you think, Ian?
Well, let's boycott everything Russian. That's the way I look at it. Can we not get British coal? We've done away with the British coal mines. Can we not replace them and get them up and running again? Can we not get EU coal?
John, can I very quickly ask you, when we go into our filling stations or wherever, will they know behind the counter if it's Russian coal or not?
I don't think most of the staff in the petrol stations will know. Maybe over the coming days after this being highlighted and then being asked hundreds of times, they might know. But it should stay on the bag. Our stuff is very clearly, it'll say right across the front, Colombian A-grade coal. A lot of it will say in smaller writing if it's from the other countries where it's from, but it should be clearly marked on the bag. The problem comes with the smokeless products because they're made and processed and they're not so clearly displayed.
John, thank you. And so that you all know, and Sam, I don't know what experience you've had, but we've been contacting some of the major distributors of this coal and some of the major companies who sell it. Silence. They're not prepared to tell us. It's no comment. And my God, they've been busy all day of today. They're not telling us.
They're not, and I think it's very important to say that there are people for whom this is important to heat their houses. It's not for me as a journalist who has got a salary that I don't need to buy coal to heat my house. I do not have that problem. You don't have that problem. Stuart doesn't have that problem. It is not for us to tell people what to do. It is for us as journalists to give people information, to let them make informed decisions.
OK. Sam, thank you for your journalism. Thanks for coming in. Stuart, thank you for coming in.
When the news gets real.
Our lives are at risk. That's the bottom line here.
When a policy becomes personal.
My son hasn't done a full year education in 3 years.
When one person's attitude leads to another's pain.
I just can't take no more of it. I really can't.
When it comes to what matters to you, get beyond the headlines. Nolan, get real.
This is just a news story until it's you waiting for an ambulance.
Watch on iPlayer, listen on Sounds.
Now, we've been asked to consider taking a refugee into our homes, and that's a personal decision for every one of us who can. For example, 50% of homes in Port Ballantrae are second homes. The caravans, if you've got a nice holiday home, are you going to lend it to a Ukrainian family fleeing a war zone? You might only pop up to the caravan now and again. That could be a roof over the head of a desperate family, like this. OK, we'll try to bring you some of that in a second or two. Those people with 5- and 6-bedroom houses on the Malone Road are people like me. Are you taking in, am I taking in a Ukrainian refugee? It's not just people with big houses, it's all of us, isn't it? Vinny's been out and about gauging opinion.
Lisburn Road, just down there, but look at the houses here. They are massive, huge. Plenty of scope to take in a few refugees.
It's certainly something that we are considering, and my wife, in fact, has been thinking about this, actually.
Wasn't the UK government doing some sort of weird thing about like 350 quid? You would
350 quid a month.
It wouldn't cover the cost or something like that. Now, something like that wouldn't. You wouldn't do it for like the money or something like that, but I kind of think it's a little bit strange that the UK government is doing those kind of things.
And in Holland, we don't have money from the government. Everybody takes people in their house for free.
I personally think that everybody's garage should be literally turned in to somewhere for someone to live.
What would that thing cost? 50 grand, 60, 70, more? Not that thing, the thing behind it, not the van. Sorry, van man. What about you? Come on out here and have a chat with me. What about? Ukrainian refugees.
I probably would, yes.
Have you applied yet?
No, not yet. My daughter's been asking me. And I says I'll think about it, because I'm going to do a wee bit of hardship myself here, like. I think there should be. I mean, there's houses all over the place that are empty. And people need to help them, like, so they do. They do need help.
I really would love to. If I had a bigger house, I definitely would.
Have you thought about it yourself? Will you take someone in?
At the moment, no. I think the risks haven't been assessed properly by politicians, and it's a great headline grabber. But with that, further thinking about it, I'd be reluctant to do so.
The reality here is it's a big ask, isn't it? Or is it? That's the dilemma. Our home is our personal space. It's a lot to ask ordinary people to give that privacy up to a stranger. Sam's in Newton Ards. You're live on BBC One, Sam. Good evening.
Good evening, Stephen. Well, I wouldn't be taking anyone in because my situation is, yes, I have a spare room, but myself and my wife are pensioners. We don't know where these people are coming from, what these people are.
Well, you do know where they're coming from. They're coming from a war zone.
Yes, and I have worked in countries such as Romania and Egypt, Turkey and so on. And if it was happening there and they needed to come, and I knew the people from the areas that I worked in, and I certainly would bring them into my home because I would already had some personal contact with them. But when I don't know where these people, what these people are or how, anything about them, then I'm sorry, it wouldn't be the thing for me.
You see, the thing is, Sam, they don't know anything about us.
No,
it's as much a danger for them. And I don't mean this about you personally, right? Obviously, I don't. But these people from Ukraine, they're desperately fleeing into a foreign country. They're coming to a foreign country where they don't know the language, and they are being put into a stranger's home. And like some of those strangers might be dodgy enough. Who knows? And I have questions around the what are the protections around that. Maria Cahill joining me. Maria, have we got a moral obligation, if we can, to take someone in and take the risk?
Well, I think it's very much a personal decision, as you said, for anybody, you know, to bring anybody into your home, no matter where they're from or what situation they're in, for a period of 6 months to 12 months is a huge decision for people to make. But, you know, 120,000 people across the UK have signed up to do just that. I think we need to be careful about not talking about people as if they are commodities. You know, as you say, these people are fleeing for their lives from a horrendous situation. The biggest displacement of people since the Second World War stands to be around 4 to 5 million people. Every country has a moral obligation to do their bit. The government have a moral obligation. You know, the right to refugee status is enshrined and protected in human rights law, but we shouldn't make people feel guilty about the fact that they may have an extra bedroom and haven't taken someone in. We should be absolutely welcoming those who take that decision to do so, to offer a secure and safe environment for people to come to.
Sorry, Maria, look at that little boy with his hand against the window. So do you say no to that little boy and his family if you've got space in your home? Is that what you do? I don't know.
Very difficult.
Andre Walker, is that what you do? You say no to that child?
Well, before I say anything else, let me tell you that I've appeared on your show multiple times, and I do it in order to debate serious issues. I have to say, I think that what Edwin Poots produced a moment ago was a genuine disgrace. To turn up on a serious news channel as a Conservative and effectively pretend he's banning coal when he's got no plan, no idea whatsoever, and effectively
he's not banning coal, is he? The company is asking for a derogation so that they don't have to take the Russian coal.
He's not doing anything other than oral flatulence. And I genuinely think that what he produced just then was a disgrace. Now I can move on.
You can think hold on a minute. You can think what you like, but the bottom line is this: he has said as a minister that he's going to try to have the derogation put in place so that Kilroot can choose to ban Russian coal. That is exactly what he said. Well, anyway, we are talking now, right now, move on, pal. We're talking now about bringing Ukrainian refugees into your home. Do you think if you can, you should?
Without a doubt. However, the major concern that I've got is that I've been on the Polish-Ukrainian border. Most of the people that come over are young mums with young kids. Now, remember, anybody who's a man from the age of 18 to 60 is required to remain in Ukraine in the military. And so the people that I met who were refugees principally wanted to stay in countries incredibly close to the border. Now, it may well be that we can't do that.
2 million people in Poland.
Yeah.
People.
But hang on a second. I said that. It may well be that we can't do that, but what you have to remember is coming to England, coming to Wales, coming to Scotland, coming to Northern Ireland will be very much a last resort for many of these people. Now, I do think we need to offer that as an option, but at the same time, I think we need to put our principal effort into supporting those border countries like Poland, like Moldova, like Romania and Hungary.
Poland is not going to be able to take 2 million at the minute and another million possibly. And should we be doing our thing? John and Lisburn, you're live on BBC One. Hello, John.
Hi, Stephen. How are you?
Go ahead, John.
It's just really, I know the government are saying they're going to give you like a £350 sort of payment each month to take in these Ukrainians, which is probably right. But what people maybe aren't realising is that they're going to have a language barrier, first of all. So you're not going to be able to communicate with them properly in the first instance.
Yeah.
And also, these people are...
But, John, they're going to be safe.
Oh, yes, I agree. But where does it end? You know, because they're probably going to ending up with PTSD as well. So it's not so much. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be taking them in, but there's that language barrier first of all, and then they're going to have possibly PTSD.
And what about that reality, Maria? It's a fair point he's making. You want to do the right thing, whatever that is. You decide for yourself the right thing is bringing someone into your home. They've got PTSD. There's no language ability to communicate and therefore care for them, console them. And you've got the stranger in your house with PTSD.
Yeah, it is difficult. It's a war situation, Stephen. I don't think anybody underestimates how difficult it can be. But local authorities are being given money by the UK government, £10,500 per refugee, more for children, in order to put those support services in place. That's going to mean more social workers, it's going to mean more health workers. Obviously, children need to be taught in school. The UK government haven't actually explained what those supports are going to be and how they're going to do that. Refugees Minister Richard Harrington was speaking today. He doesn't seem, he's just saying thousands are coming in next week. He hasn't any guarantee that some of those people are not going to be put into hotels. But I think you're right in terms of the very first thing is that people have access, are welcomed and given a secure and safe environment, and supports obviously need to be put in place and kept in place.
It becomes much more emotive when you actually hear from some of the children who are themselves looking for a home. They're orphans, some of the people you're going to see now. They're desperate for help. We spoke to 4 young children, and with the help of interpreter Natalie Radichenko, they told us their stories. What does it feel like to be in a different country? Poland.
Какие вот ощущения твои, вот, когда ты прилетел в другую страну?
Да, сейчас, подождите, не понимаю. Мои ощущения, ну, это как бы новые люди, новое вообще, новое общество, более, как бы, как сказать...
It's different. You don't understand a lot. People are different, different language. Everything is different.
Can I speak to you now? These 4 boys look so sweet. They look so innocent. It is just wrong that they're being caught up in a war. It is wrong.
These boys are a huge part of my life for many years. I saw them growing up. I thank everyone who helped us get out of Ukraine for the moment. I'm very thankful to everyone who made this happen, for these kids to be safe, because we don't know what will happen tomorrow in our city, in Ukraine. And I'm just very happy to see these boys out of it. And I'm hoping that we can move to Britain and stay there until it is safe in our country.
They can't get into our country. They're in Poland. They're in safety now. But the UK hasn't developed the rules yet to get them into our country. And they've spent their life in an orphanage, and they had to flee to get out of that orphanage. After those boys had left, I spoke to Natalie alone, and I asked her about her plans to get the kids to safety in Scotland and how she wants to keep them together as a family.
We are hoping to that the authorities will let us go, that both sides will let us go, because here in Poland, this place that we stay in, we're here, I think it will be a week. I lost the count of days already. The war started on 24th of February, and starting from that moment, life just completely changed. We have completely different life. So I just hope we have this place for, I think, 1 more week, and that's all.
And then what happens?
We're hoping that we can go to Scotland. We very hope for that, because there is no way we can go back to Ukraine.
And if you cannot go to Scotland, where will the children live? Where will they be?
I don't know. I really don't. We just really hope we can go, because people in Scotland are already ready to help us. People in Scotland, they know about Dnipro kids. They are waiting for us. They're ready to help. Just we're hoping we can come and be there until it's safe for us to come back to Ukraine.
Are you trying to keep those children together all at once?
Yes. We are trying to keep them together because it's families. It's home-type orphanages where they have mother and father. The fathers stayed at home they did not leave. So this is the family. You cannot separate the family. And we are all like a big family. And I'm hoping we can stay all together. This is my huge hope, that we can stay all together, stay safe, and just till it gets better.
Dave's in Ballymena. You're live on BBC One, Dave. As quick as you can for me, please.
Hi, Stephen. I'm just saying about the veterans and all, and Belfast, and homeless and all lying in the streets of Belfast, and nowhere to sleep, and these people's coming over, and their hospitals and all set in the state there, and where are we going to put all these people?
Where are you going to put them?
Yeah.
Or would you leave them in Ukraine?
No, I wouldn't leave them in Ukraine. I feel the pity for that, the people over there. But, we need to think about our own people in Northern Ireland here who's going through bad times as well, like.
Yvonne and Coleraine, you disagree? You're live on BBC One, Yvonne.
Well, I understand where that man's coming from, but to be honest, these people are running for their lives. They are absolutely desperate.
So you've registered already, is that right?
No, I have registered, Stephen. Yes, I registered the minute it was made aware of what we had to do and what the process was. I've spoken to my local MP, Claire Sugden in Coleraine, and she's kept me right as well on what to do. I've actually spoken to 3 families tonight from Ukraine and trying to get a match. The thing is, the government's not matching up with my family. It's down to social media. It's really the only way that we can match up ourselves. These groups are absolutely evil when people want to host and mummies, families, looking for hosts in the UK.
Look, what we're going to do in the Nolan radio show tomorrow morning, we're going to try to bring you, do you pick the people? How does this work? What are the safety measures in place? We'll try to bring you that on Nolan at 9 tomorrow morning, BBC Radio Ulster. Andre Walker, from what you've seen tonight, you've seen children that fled from an orphanage, for goodness sake. You've seen a Russian MP with a rifle in her hand. Are you tempted to help somebody? You personally?
First of all, I was working as an aid worker last week. I'm going to go back next week on the Polish-Ukrainian border. My point is not that we shouldn't help people. Bear in mind, whether it be Birmingham or Belfast or Bristol, aid trucks are coming over to Poland and Ukraine. The issue is, what do these people actually want to do? And as it stands right now, much as people in Northern Ireland wish to offer accommodation, principally, people want to stay very close to the border because their husbands are currently fighting in Ukraine.
Let me try to squeeze in, if you don't mind, Andrew and Armagh. Hello, Andrew.
Hello.
The pictures you've seen on Nolan Live tonight of those children having fled that orphanage, what's it done for you?
Well, we've been looking at it this last number of days, and we have a farmhouse that we can accommodate up to 2 families, 8 people, possibly 10. And the young lady there was suggesting that she needs somewhere to go in Scotland. Why not come to Northern Ireland? Come to Armagh. I have lots of friends in business in the county that also want to do the same thing. So please get them in here. We just need to find the avenue to get them here.
So you're reaching out to those kids from that orphanage?
Absolutely. And mothers and children, however we can get them here, we just need the avenue to get them here. Unless the politic rubbish, get it here.
These pictures we're looking at now, we don't know any of these people. We don't know that little baby. We don't know that mother, that little baby with a colouring in book. All of those strangers there, we do not know them.
Well, what we can say is they're human beings and they're very decent people, and we need to help them at a time of war.
And what I'm going to ask you tonight as we close the programme is, we don't know any of these desperate people. We don't know that little boy with his hand to the window. Do we need to know in order to help? Do we need to know in order to help? I don't know. I'll see you in the morning on the radio, 9 o'clock, BBC Radio Ulster for the Nolan Show. Thank you for your company tonight. Bye now.